Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Thor Record of Ragnarok Cardfight Vanguard deck profile for post-title booster Record of Ragnarok. With the new Record of Ragnarok anime decks, we're going right in line with the round 1 fights, and our next deck profile is on the God of Thunder, Thor, the first match roundup for the gods. It's a very strong deck that focuses on the power of using the order cards that the gods utilize for the Record of Ragnarok set, being able to have the power of using your other rear guards to strengthen up your Vanguard Thor. It's a really interesting deck that focuses on the pretty staple power of just being able to limit what your opponent can do by also retiring their own rear guards. A similar playstyle to Lubu, but Lubu being where he attacks and retires the rear guard units. Thor does it more on a card ability sort of playstyle. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride line, unlike the humans that have to focus on Brunhilde for the first units, our starter is Thor, so it's Thor all throughout it. With the when wrote upon, if you went second, draw a card skill for D format. The grade 1 is finally meeting a rival, Thor. When this unit is placed on Vanguard by riding on Thor, look at 7 cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 Thor order or normal unit card with Thor and its card name from among them. Reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, and shuffle the rest, and then put them on the bottom of the deck. So with that, you have your search power for additional cards you may need to use on the rear guard or even one of the orders to set up. The grade 2 is all-out mode Thor. When this unit is placed on Vanguard by riding on finally meeting a rival Thor, draw a card, and this unit gets plus 5,000 until end of turn. And also, when this unit attacks, if your opponent has 2 or less rear guards, it gets plus 5,000, being a 20k grade 2 on the first attack. With our final part of the ride deck being the grade 3 Berserker of Thunder Thor, along with the unit we are running in the ride deck, we are also running 3 additional copies of this card. On the Vanguard circle, once per turn, you can rest one of your rear guards, search your deck for up to 1 Thor order card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So along with the search power you have with your grade 1, this is your main go-to way to just access all the many different orders we run in the deck. And on the Vanguard circle, once per turn, you can counter +1 and discard a card from your hand. Your opponent chooses 2 of their rear guards and retires them. This takes away the rear sources that I spoke of before, with Thor being the powerhouse using his hammer to bring down and retire all of your opponent's rear guards. Now, just like the other decks in this game, the grade 3s focus solely on the Persona ride for the Vanguard, but the gods do use a good number of grade 2s for the front row to use. And with that, for the next Thor unit, we are running 4 copies of Strongest Norse God Thor. When this unit is placed on rear guard, if you have a Vanguard grade 3 or greater with Thor in its card name, you can Soul Blast 2, choose one of your opponent's rear guards in the same column as this unit, and retire it. And during your turn, if your opponent has no units in the same column as this unit, gets plus 5,000 power. Just a great way to clear out your opponent's columns with your grade 3 Thor being able to retire 2, and then have this one to, basically retire an additional 1 in that column. For the additional grade 2s that we run, also running 4 God of War Ares. When this unit attacks, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, God, you can counter +1, Soul +1, draw a card, and this unit gets plus 5,000 until end of that battle. Just giving you resources for the draw power. It does have to attack, obviously, to utilize that draw, but still giving you more of a guard usage with those cards you draw in your hand, and a plus 5,000 Ares, so when you Persona ride, it can be a 25k attacker on its own. And I also run, for some of the more defensive plays in the deck, 4 copies of the God of Destruction and Creation, Shiva. If your Vanguard is a god and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets plus 5,000 shield till end of battle. This is from the guard circle, just giving you an additional 10k guard option when using this card against your opponent for blocking more of their attacks that they may use against you. With the trigger lineup, we're not using the fronts with the additional 5k shield, so there's just another way to make up for that power restriction in guarding against our opponents. I also run 2 copies of God of Cunning Loki. When this unit is placed on rear, you can Soul Blast 2, reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a god, call it to rear guard with the good majority of all of these cards in the deck, aside from if you don't reveal a unit. That's why I'm only running 2 of this card, because it is risky. You could reveal a order and then not be able to, call it to rear guard, obviously. And from the back row, center rear guard, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can rest this unit, and all of your front rows get plus 5,000 till end of turn. So all you have to do is set up this Loki in the back row center rear guard, rest it, and you have that power to provide to the other ones. It's basically like him cheering from the audience to all the gods that are actually fighting in the ring. And for the grade 1s, small grade 1 lineup, I have one copy of Messenger of the God Hermes. If you want to add more copies of this card, you can reduce the numbers of Shivas that you run in the deck for additional copies of Hermes. When this unit is placed on rear guard from hand, if your Vanguard is a God, you may Soul Charge 1. And when this unit this unit boosted hits a Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1, choose a God with a grade equal to or less than your Vanguard from your Soul, and call it to a back row rear guard. Setting up more of the Soul Charge you may potentially do with cards like Loki to set them up in the back row center rear guard to use for their own power plays. And then also for the rest of the grade 1s, just 4 of the Supreme Norse God Odin, being the Gull Sentinel counterpart to the God deck. When you guard with this card, if you only have 1 or less cards in your hand, you don't have to pay the discard cost, meaning you can keep an additional Sentinel in your hand for you to use against one more attack your opponent may have. The pretty much standard Sentinel to use in overdress formats. And moving on now to the normal orders, I run 4 of the Legends Passed Down Thor. You play this card with a Counterblast 1 if your Vanguard with Thor in its card name. Choose one of your Vanguards to end of turn. It gets plus 10,000 power, and your opponent cannot call Sentinels from their hand to the guard circle for the battles this unit attacked. If your opponent has no front row rear guards, it gets plus 20,000 instead of 10,000. That is an incredible boost to hit against your opponent with, and for the fact that they can't use Sentinels. You could be hitting, if you Persona Road, for 43,000 alone with Thor, and that no Sentinel restriction means they'll either have to take the attack and risk a big trigger count, or just hope to have enough in their hand to guard against it. And then for the last of the orders, also running 4 additional copies of Thor's Hammer. With this card, play this card. If you have a Vanguard with Thor in its card name, draw a card, choose one of your units, and it gets plus 5,000 till end of turn. So this is a grade 2 order, so you can activate this when you're on the grade 2 ride target, so a viable target to use when you ride into your grade 1 to search out for it, to then when you ride into your grade 2 activate during that turn, so you have one of the more viable grade 3 orders to activate when you're on your grade 3 Thor. And that is it for the order units. Moving on now to the triggers. We went with more of a pressure that the order can do. So we are running 6 criticals. So 4 of the much awaited encounter. This is the Put into Soul plus 2,000 for the gods. And 2 of the strongest by nature. Thor, if you don't have the much awaited encounter, you can run 4 copies of the strongest by nature in your deck. It just makes up for the lack of other triggers they had for the deck by doing so with the card text. And also we are running 5 of the draws, so we are running 4 of the underplanning or underpining style. If your Vanguard is a god and your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, it gets plus 5,000. And the 1 additional copy of Battle in the Abyss, just for the draw power to help with more of the hand consistency along with the critical pressure. And then for the heals, we're running 4 of the Heavenly Melody. This is the god's heal trigger that you have to run, just so you have the names being all gods in the deck. And the same along with our over trigger being Ragnarok. For the side of the gods, we have the one for the humans and the one for the gods. And this one has the same card ability where you just choose a unit and stand it. If you have all your front row units with God and in their card name, get plus 10,000, which the whole deck is, so you have no problem with this over trigger either. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. With that, we have finished round 1 of Record of Ragnarok with Lubu and Thor covered. With the next deck profiles, we'll be getting to round 2, being Adam and Zeus, so definitely look forward to those. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.